Welcome back, Nightly Nonsense. Hey, last time, whenever that last time is, we were talking about the book of Nehemiah, talking about a remnant that was left after the exile. In fact, that God finally decided that suddenly was now. Right? You understand that God is outside of time. So one of our friends down here, Will Tompkins, loves to talk about this outside of time stuff, right? And I'm not even going to pretend. So you can go to Outside the Box and you can listen to like his first or second video, and it was on this. We were talking about it last night, and I was talking about this with my son, right? There's this weird concept. God is outside of time. We're not beholden to time. So it's not like 3 o'clock in heaven. Right? It's not 2 o'clock in heaven, not 1 o'clock in heaven, not 7 o'clock in the morning and all of heaven wakes up. There's no roosters crowing to wake us up, and there's no night lights at night, right? Like it's just, there's no time. So you understand that when God says soon, very soon, very soon, now, suddenly, all those things, He's outside of time saying that. So literally, God is sending a message into time going, hey, soon I'm going to bring judgment if you guys don't get your act together. Then he sends another message into time. Hey, very soon I'm going to send judgment if you don't get this right. And then he's outside of time and he goes, hey, let's send another message in and says, okay, very soon is about on you. Suddenly it's coming, ladies and gentlemen. Get it right. And then all of a sudden, God sends judgment in through time, and it hits us. Now here's the problem. God could have sent every one of those things at the exact same moment. But they just enter and they come into time at different moments. So God's not up in heaven going, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. He's not counting and watching his clock. God, in God's world, dimension, it all happens at the same time. It's an amazing thought. Go listen to Will's thing, and Will tell you that, hey, listen, we may all get to heaven at the exact same moment. That will be mind-blowing to you. 6,000 years, and Adam and us get to heaven at the exact same time. Why? Because God has no time, right? So if you really stop and you really think about it, when God says soon, now this is all I'm really doing here is preaching to me, right? So the rest of you can like just sing a song, go, use the Jeopardy theme, there, that whatever, while I'm talking to myself. Here's the problem. Soon, very soon, almost now, gonna be now, should be now, might be now, all of those things. God's not waiting for years and years and years to do it. God sent the answer to your prayer the minute that you said it. It's just, when does it enter time? When does he allow it to enter time? So you know what? God can say, hey, you're going to get that job. That job is yours. Yeah, because you did that to Joseph. You're going to be in charge, right? People are going to bow down to you. Oh, David, you're going to be in charge. People are going to bow down to you. Hey, Abraham, you're going to like father this whole entire country. It's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. All these things. And then all of these guys and women, they wait. Hey, Mary, let's have a little chat for a second. I'm going to send Jesus to save the entire universe, right? He's going to die on the cross. He's the Savior of the world. I've been prophesying about him, sending messages for the last, you might have heard about him the last 3,000-4,000 years, right? And hey, Mary, you're it. Tag. You're the person. Like, can you imagine that? Mary, like, what are you talking about, right? The angel says, hey, you're highly favored, Mary. Out of all the people who've ever lived, and all the people that could live, God decided at this moment, you're the lady for the job. We were talking about that last night in Bible study about Solomon. That out of all the people that ever lived, and all the people that could live, God decided, hey, Solomon, let me make you the guy that gets to have whatever he asks for. Whatever you ask for. Like anything, whatever you ask for. God doesn't even say up to half my kingdom. He says, whatever you want. Ask me for whatever you want. What? Solomon gets to be that guy. Mary gets to be that woman. But you know what the deal is? God knew with Adam and Eve when he promised that he was going to fix this mess. And God knew when Jesus was coming. He already said Jesus was on his way with Adam and Eve. It's just, when did he enter time? It's crazy. craziness. It's like God went, okay, now let's fast forward 4,000 years, right? So God knows when you're suddenly. So 70 years, he said to the exiles, hey, you're going to be in Babylon 70 years. You might want to settle down, hunker down, get ready, have families, get a house, put in a garden, do all the things, right? But at one moment, I'm going to release you. Now, here's the cool thing about this. They could have sat down, literally started their stopwatch and known when 70 years was and known when God was going to work. God sent all kinds of signs. He also gave exact times. You're going to be out. You're going to be there 70 years. They could have done that, but they didn't, right? Just like for you and I. Do you know that probably God has given us all kinds of signs, all kinds of things, right? And we probably know when things are going to happen. But the problem is we're so busy paying attention to what we want and when we want, how we want it. But in the Israelites' case, a lot of them got so comfortable during that 70 years. Do you know that some of them, if not a lot of them, decided not to come back? They decided not to come back to the promised land. Hey, we like it here. Hey, it's really good here. It's where the story of Esther comes in, Daniel comes in, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. God was doing things during that time, right? So Nehemiah is on the verge of suddenly. I hope you're excited. I really, 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 really hope that you're excited, because your suddenly may be today. It might be the next minute. It might have already happened and God's just waiting for it to come into time. You know, like when God promised you 2 years ago something, probably he sent the promise right at that moment. But what is he doing? Waiting. So you're waiting a few months for a job, a few years for a job, a few months for a relationship, or you're waiting a few years for a house or a car and all these things. I've been praying lately for a car because I got a car problem, right? And so what happens? God says, Annie, I already sent the answer. The answer's, it's coming. It's just got to enter time. And it might be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 weeks down the road. But it's going to enter time and God's going to answer. We just gotta wait for that. We've got to wait for that. Listen, let me make this super clear and personal in nature to some of you. Those of you who are praying for children. God already has those children. They're already created. Do you know what he's waiting for? He's just waiting for when he's going to put them into time and insert them. He's been holding them, playing with them, knows their name. He's got them dressed way cuter than you're going to have them dressed, right? They already are experiencing God. They already know God. And probably they already know some of those who have gone before us, but if you just listen to me talk about time, that could be a little complicated. So, but guess what? God already knows. And at some moment, here's my idea. So please don't burst my bubble, and all of you great theologians, don't tell me I'm wrong. Can you imagine if you're a little kid and you're holding on to the finger of God? Jesus is walking around, he's cuddling you, you're playing baseball with him, soccer, like whatever it is, right? And all of a sudden Jesus said, it's time. You are the promise of someone, and it's time to fulfill that promise. And he gives the little boy or the little girl, or maybe both, a hug, right? He gives them a hug, kisses them on the cheek, says, I'll see you soon. But you're the promise of somebody, and I'm going to insert you into time. What an incredible, incredible spiritual thought, right? It brings me to tears just thinking about that, right? God creates children perfectly, and then he says, I'm going to send you to an imperfect world. You know why I know this is true? Because it's exactly what he did with Jesus. Hey, son, let's insert you here to save this messed up, screwed up world. Right? That's what Jesus did. That's what God does. Those of you who are waiting for the job, God's creating the perfect job. Those of you who are waiting for a car, he's creating you just gotta wait. But you know what happens? We get tired of waiting. And we settle because it's never coming. And I wonder how many of us stay in exile when God's calling us back to the promised land. He asked them to wait for 70 years. Why? Because their parents and grandparents and great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents were disobedient. All of them were disobedient. And so they had to wait for their promised land experience. They had to wait for their promises. But you know what? They got tired of waiting. Why? Because waiting's hard. Waiting comes with feelings and emotions and all of these things. We've been trying for 10 years to have kids and it hasn't happened. We've resourced out to everything that we have, and we can't make this happen. We can't get the house. We can't get the job. We can't get the whatever it is. And God says, just wait. Your suddenly is coming. So there's a group of people here in Nehemiah that have no idea, because they're really not paying attention. By the way, that includes Nehemiah, that their suddenly's coming. Check this out. Nehemiah is the cupbearer to the king. He's doing his duty. All of a sudden, some guy comes back from the area of Jerusalem where he grew up, right? Or where his parents grew up, or something like that, right? And he just asks a simple question. Hey, what's going on back home? How's it going? You ever done that with somebody? And then thought back, wow, why did I ask that question? If I hadn't asked that question, this wouldn't happen, this wouldn't happen. This. Do you see how God started suddenly? Suddenly got kick-started with a question. Hey, how are the people back home doing? How's the remnant? How are those that were left behind? How are they doing? What if somebody's suddenly hinged on you asking the right questions? Actually caring about them. Hey, how is so-and-so? How is so-and-so? I wonder how so-and-so... Do you think it's by accident when you run into somebody somewhere? Haven't seen them forever and ever and ever and ever, and they text you, they email you, they call you. Well, that would be highly unlikely. But, they do something out of the blue. Sometimes God's suddenly involves asking a question. Sometimes it involves like Moses. Hey, I think I'll go over and see why the bush isn't burning up while it's burning. And sometimes suddenly is, hey Joshua, get prepared. Suddenly comes when Elijah sends a servant 7 times to look out over the sea and goes, hey, I see a little cloud now. Suddenly, it's going to rain after 7 years. Suddenly came for Joseph when a baker remembered. Suddenly comes sometimes for other people when we just ask a simple question. Sometimes we're the kickstart for somebody suddenly. Hey, I didn't get a single place in Nehemiah, but I had fun doing this. So, hey, hopefully you'll make some sense out of maybe some of this nonsense that I just gave to you. I hope that you're looking for your suddenly and that you're understanding God's not withholding your suddenly. It's already made. He's just deciding when to insert it into time, right? Just like he did for Jesus. If he waited 4,000 years to insert Jesus into time, it's likely he might wait a few days to insert your promise into time. Right moment, perfect place, perfect time. Everything was good. We'll talk to you again next time. Nightly Nonsense.